What's going on, guys, and welcome back to episode 2 of this Minecraft Forever World series. In today's episode, I am going to build some stables for some animals, and I'm also going to go exploring and hopefully find a Minecraft village. Now, if you watched the last episode, you'll know that we finished this starter house, and in between episodes, I haven't done too much, but as you can see, I added some much needed foliage to kind of sprucing up, liven up the outside of this area. And I've also gotten rid of the mini chest monster over here, and I have moved all of my stuff inside, very loosely organized, but it's a start. And here's our first wooden pickaxe. Now, as you can see with this sugarcane here, one of the goals of this episode that I have is to get some of the infrastructure for an enchanting table going. Beyond the sugarcane, obviously the other thing I would need is some leather. So I think the first thing we're going to tackle in this episode is building up some stables for some animals, and especially go wrangle some cows. While I cut down the trees and get the resources for the stables, I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched that first episode, and especially thank you for all of the really nice comments and helpful feedback you guys left. It really is helpful and it really is encouraging to see you guys comment and leave likes. As I mentioned at the end of the last episode, this is the first time I've really tried to do any content like this, so all of the nice comments really were encouraging, and I will definitely take all of the feedback into account, and hopefully you can see that so far in this episode. And let's get a little wheat farm started, because we're definitely going to need a lot of that in the future. Now for the stable builds, I think I'm going to keep a similar palette to the starter house. I want to try to make the starter spawn area very cohesive. I'm definitely going to change up block palettes in the future. Anyone who builds in Minecraft knows how difficult it is to make birch work with a lot of materials, especially now since I'm very limited in the materials I have, and especially getting a large quantity of those materials. I think that sticking with this block palette is definitely the way to go. Since I have it, might as well make use of this campfire. So when I was out collecting spruce wood, I found this sunken ship. So let's check out what this loot's looking like. Oh, and we'll definitely take the buried treasure map. Alright, I'll be back when we find this buried treasure. So it looks like we are above the buried treasure, but it's in the water, and without aquafinity or respiration, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. There it is. Got to make sure we have some breath, though. Let's go check it out. Oh, and that's pretty good loot. Bundles are a great addition to the game for early game inventory management. Alright, and after a lot of spruce wood collecting, I think we are ready for these stable builds. And I think for now, I'm just going to have one for cows and one for sheep. Eventually, when we have larger farm areas, I will have a dedicated stables for, pigs and chickens and what have you. But I think for the starter area, especially for, getting started in general, just the cows and the sheep will be enough. So let's get started at that and enjoy the time lapse. Alright, and here is the first stable builds. I think this one will probably be for the cows, and just want to add a couple finishing touches, maybe some barrels here. And I think once we get more hay, probably having a little trough here for the cows will make it look a little bit more realistic, add nice finishing touches to it. But I think Now I will get on to building the second one. And here are the finished stables, and I think they turned out pretty well, and I think they especially work well with our starter house. Let's try to get them all in one shot. I think they pair well. I think using the same type of materials definitely adds to a cohesiveness to this starter area. And I think now what we need to do is, just like I did in between episodes with the starter house, I think we need to spruce up the pathway, maybe add a couple trees, and I'm going to do that. Alright, now that we're done the stables, I think I'm going to work on doing some terraforming into the area and making it look a lot more cohesive. And rather than do the normal time-lapse video, I think I'm going to take this time to kind of just talk about some of the stuff that I've run into as a new creator, especially in the Minecraft building, and some of the stuff that I've noticed myself doing, I've noticed that a lot of others doing in terms of like looking up videos and kind of guides of how to go about starting a YouTube channel and a series like this. And I recently saw a video which I will include in the description by a larger YouTuber than me, but a smaller YouTuber. I believe it only had about 600 views or so. And what they talk about in the video is how a lot of the problems that people often have when making content, making YouTube videos, building in Minecraft, what have you, a lot of the problems that comes from, you know, not feeling like your content is the greatest, not feeling like you're making as good of a content as you can, comes from comparing yourself to others. And I found it kind of eye-opening because as someone who watches a lot of Minecraft YouTube, watches people who are much bigger than I am, they always are kind of people that you want to emulate. You know, you want to make your videos, make your builds, make what have you as good as theirs. And specifically, the two content creators that were most influential when I decided to make this channel and start this series were BOO, which I mentioned in the first episode. His building with B-Dubs series is probably, you know, what has led me to want to become a Minecraft YouTuber. Which saying it out loud sounds silly, but you know, I'm really inspired by how he does his builds. And then the other one would be a, you know, fairly decently sized YouTuber, but not as big as, you know, the Hermitcraft guys. And that is a YouTuber called Wax Fraud. And what those two YouTubers do is kind of not surprisingly what I am trying to do with this series. And of course, when you're taking influence from anyone, you often find yourself trying to say, well, you know, I can do that. I can make those videos. I can make those builds. And the reality of it is more so Minecraft YouTube content, but it can kind of apply to any content in general, anything that's been around for a long time. And that is that most of the people that you see on YouTube have been doing this for years, if not, you know, at this point, decades, or I guess a decade. While it may feel normal to compare yourself to those people, it's not the greatest thing to do for your own sanity, because those people have been making these videos, perfecting their craft, doing all of the stuff that they do for a lot longer than you have when you're first starting out. And I think it's just important to take a step back and kind of recognize that while you might not be making videos or builds or what have you on the same level of quality as some of those people, you can still make videos that are personally fulfilling for yourself. Now, obviously, the main goal everyone has when they're starting a YouTube channel is that they want to be successful right off the bat. And the reality of it is that most of those people were not. I mean, having a successful YouTube channel right off the bat is like hitting the lottery. And I think most people, they go through that first phase of gung-ho, I'm ready to make some content. And once they get past that first phase of I'm excited to make content, a lot of them often get burnt out. And even in the, couple of weeks that I've been making shorts and YouTube videos on this channel, I felt that too. I had, a couple of videos, shorts backlogged. When you run out of that backlog of videos, it's kind of a question mark of whether or not you have that same ambition to continue forward. But to use a cliche, it's not always about the destination. Sometimes it's about, the journey of getting there. But one thing that I've really found that has helped me with this feeling like you have to compare yourself to other people is that by taking some enjoyment out of the smaller milestones, the smaller achievements that you have in your YouTube channel, it can really benefit your mentality, your mental state in general. Because if you're going to start a YouTube channel and immediately think, I'm going to be the next Mr. Beast, or even, I'm going to get 1,000 subscribers within a couple of videos, 99 times out of 100, that isn't what's going to happen. And it doesn't necessarily always mean that your content is bad. It just means that that's kind of how success works, how life works. Some people get incredibly lucky, some people are just naturally talented, and some people just have to work at it. But it's important to find your area where you feel like you're enjoying it, you're making content that you feel good about, and kind of just, initially put the immediate success on the back burner. And, some people have shortcuts, some people get lucky and, start on the 50-yard dash, but that's not the case for more people. And I think getting out of the mentality of expecting that to happen is very beneficial for continuing the spark to create and continuing the enjoyment that you have in making YouTube videos or content, whatever it may be. Probably going to need to go down into that lush cave and get some more azalea and moss stuff to make this look a little bit nicer. And this is actually a perfect time for this guy to be selling some sea pickles, because I do love them, especially when using pumpkins. I know this is a lot of talking and not necessarily interesting to everyone, so let me know in the comments whether you prefer the normal time-lapse or if you actually do enjoy these talking and building type of videos. Alright, so I think that's good for the terraforming, but I think it's still missing something. So I'm going to add a couple of trees in here to liven up the area even more. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the time-lapse. I think these trees tie in the area nicely. Again, trying to keep it on theme with this birch forest here, so I decided to go for a birch tree. And the exact tree that I went with was a river birch, and I'll pop up an image right here. One of the tips that I have for making custom trees, and I'm by no means an expert in it, but what I found is that using example images for the trees is definitely the way to go, especially with the leaves, because I find that it's hard to get a natural look to them when you're not using a reference image. Alright, so I think the last step for this would be to get some cows and get some sheep in here so that we can finish off these stables. And unfortunately, I'm going to have a little bit of distance to travel because I may or may not have killed all of the cows and sheep by my house. Alright, so got one sheep in, and we've got him a friend. And now the cows might be a little trickier because I definitely did number on their population. Alright, got the first cow, and this is taking a lot longer than I thought it would. Alright, seems like we got a little herd moving back towards the start area. Alright, now we got the cows in there. And I think that finally adds the finishing touches to these stables. These cows seem to really enjoy jumping on these shelves. Alright, so now it's time I think we do some exploring, and I definitely think the first priority should be finding a village. So I'm going to go off, and if I find anything interesting, hopefully a village, I'll get back to you guys. And here's the village. And it doesn't look like it's particularly big, but hopefully it has everything we want, and I definitely see these bookshelves and we'll be taking all of them. And it's actually bigger than it initially looked. And there is an iron golem here, so I guess that's a good sign that there are plenty of villagers here. And I'm definitely going to steal some of these crops because we do not have any carrots or potatoes yet. This area in general actually would not be bad to build my main city of the world. It is fairly close to the start area. I just kind of followed the coast along towards that way. So this would definitely be an easy place to set up the permanent major capital of our forever world. And once we do move from that start area to a larger city, let me know what you think I should do with that area. I was thinking of making it kind of a mining colony since we have the mountain right there, but I'm definitely open to your suggestions in the comments below. Wow, and this area gets even better since there's a village not far from the last one. Right over there, right over there. This area might be perfect enough to even put 2 cities in. And this area past the second village just looks perfect for building. I mean, I think this settles it. This area has to be where we build our major city. But in the meantime, we have to take one of these guys back to the start area. And this is totally not kidnapping. Just think of it as giving this villager a greater purpose. And after a bit of struggle, the boat is in the ocean, and hopefully we'll be on our way back to the starter area. Alright, and after a very time-consuming journey up this small hill for this villager here, I finally got him into a spot where I can manage him better. And unfortunately, this will be his temporary home until next episode. And I was lucky enough to get a pretty good mending trade, so that works out perfectly. But after that, I think this is going to be it for this episode of my Forever World. Thank you all for watching. I think in the next episode, we'll definitely make a more permanent house for that mending villager, as well as possibly do some more exploring into that area that we might build our main central city. But again, thanks for watching, and make sure to comment down below what you think about the time-lapse, whether you like the music-based time-lapse or if you like the more talking while building time-lapse. But again, I'll see you in the next one. See ya!